In my opinion, it's just the best fan film you'll ever see. It's a really great YouTube fan movie. That's what it felt like. It was someone put together the Han Solo spin-off movie.
Remember those things he talked about doing? We're gonna see those things.
Yeah, we're really nothing different. But just, I don't know.
Yeah, we're just gonna show you what they looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the film is. So we went to an early screening of Solo: A Star Wars Story. It's nighttime for us. Embargo lifts at a specific hour, though. I'm sure we are one of many reviews that have suddenly been uploaded in your notification bells for YouTube, and we're just one of many. Just like how this Star Wars movie is now just one of many Star Wars movies to come. Yeah.
Oh boy, and there'll be another and another and another after that.
We have to steer very clear of as many spoilers as possible. Basically, anything that the trailer doesn't tell you, we cannot tell you anything about. Even though if you've seen the trailer and you have an idea of what this movie is about, it's a pretty predictable, generic film.
You're gonna get a whole lot of what you expected.
Yeah, it's exactly what you'd expect. It's exactly how we all thought it would be, and I guess that's where the disappointing factor comes in, because I don't want to say the word unnecessary. I feel like most films are unnecessary. What film is really necessary?
If you really boil that argument down.
Yeah, only documentaries can really be necessary.
I suppose.
But there's a lack of specialty in here. But that's not to say the movie's not fun. For majority of it, if you didn't like the darker tones of like The Last Jedi and Rogue One especially, this film really ups the ante on just having a fun time throughout. There's no stakes. It's a lot of fun that they have.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is there's a certain amount of weight that gets removed from this movie when you just know that Han's gonna succeed. Because we're gonna see him later.
Well, not just Han. There's like Chewie and Lando.
Yeah. You've got an ensemble.
And you can take a best guess with all the other characters you haven't heard of. What's gonna happen? You know?
There's no weight to what they're doing because you know that the events they're gonna focus on are probably gonna be successful.
I guess the best way to start with this is talking about the cast. Of course, the guy whose name I can never remember how to say, Alden Ehrenreich.
Just Ehrenreich.
I'm not one of those people who complains about his performance going, I want to see Harrison Ford in here. Honestly, I just wanted to see him do his own thing. I was able to strip my mind away from thinking about Harrison Ford. Honestly, the guy does a good job, although it can be intermittent for me. I think that he's charming. He's funny. If you're gonna compare him to Harrison Ford, he's no Harrison Ford, that's for sure. I felt like his performance was intermittent because for the most part it felt kind of one note for me. Although that note he was playing was a lot of the time charming. His performance can sometimes ham up the charm. There were times where I thought he was really hamming up the charisma part. He does that same smile every scene.
Wide Tom Cruise smile.
It's always like
Cruise a lot.
There are times where I really liked him, there are times where I thought he was kind of annoying. Overall though, he's not boring. I was worried he was going to be a boring Han Solo, and he's not.
Yeah, I feel like the tricky part about Han Solo for this movie in general is that by design they just can't do a whole lot with that character to surprise you, so he's constantly surrounded by more interesting characters who we don't know, who have other things going on, and it's like, I liked Alden Ehrenreich, I thought he was charming, but the movie, I don't think they gave him a ton to work with really beyond just being charming badass Han Solo.
I don't think this is a spoiler. I don't really think he has an arc in this movie.
Not really.
And I felt like they could have arced him, especially because he's so different than who he is in A New Hope.
Well, they made a big deal about that in the advertising, about how he's young and starry-eyed, and he's got all these dreams. And
I want to be a pilot.
And then he does be a pilot.
The standout performance is one that I guess I shouldn't be surprised by. I guess what surprised me was the amount of usage they took out of him in this movie was Woody Harrelson. I thought Woody Harrelson was great.
Pound for pound, I think he's the best performance.
He's definitely the best performance. It surprised me that not everyone's really talking about him in their early reactions. I think it's because we all expect Woody Harrelson to just kind of do a good job.
He's an elder statesman now, you know.
I still thought that he had the most fully fleshed character out of everyone, and his performance feels very lived in.
And the most surprises come from him.
Yeah. Donald Glover as Lando, I thought was very charming. There's a lack of Lando in this movie.
Yeah.
It was pretty surprising how little Lando there was.
There's a lot in this movie that feels insufficient incidental rather than essential. Donald Glover, it's fun to watch him as Lando. They need his ship. They don't really need him. Things like that kind of hamper the effect. It's again, I thought he was great, and I wish they gave him something better to work with.
Yeah, there's a new droid that they tease in the movie that is connected to Lando named L3. Some people, it seems like when we were walking out of the theater, some people were very much not for L3, and then there were people, I take it you were.
I dug L3.
I liked L3. I mean, there's some stuff that's very on the nose with what they were doing with their character, but I thought L3 got the biggest laughs out of me.
And was one of the characters with the most personality.
Yeah.
And part of what's fun about these new spin-offs is the amount of personality they can bring.
Paul Bettany as the main baddie in the film. He was good. He
does a fine job.
He's good. He does a good job. He's kind of a generic villain.
He's good at doing this new type of villain that we have now, who's not like quite a mustache twirler. Like he's got enough performance-based nuance, but really he's just a mustache twirler.
I was really distracted by the makeup they did. You see it in the trailer. When I was watching this movie, I couldn't help but go, okay, were you trying to go for subtlety? Because now I'm just distracted thinking you half-assed the makeup on like what you could
stretch
with the effect. Yeah, it's
lost
like what
a lot
was
of weight.
It feels really half-assed when I was watching it. Being more creative, man. He's the main baddie. You can do more things with him. Amelia Clarke
She's fine.
You see, I think the big issue with this film is that it didn't know where its heart was really at.
Yeah, that's a good point.
When Chewie first shows up, and Chewie's cool. Chewie's cool in the movie.
Yeah,
and,
Chewie's mildly endearing even.
And when Chewie shows up, I was like, oh, this is where the heart of the movie's at, is Chewie and Han. And they're like, I guess not, though, because the movie doesn't really spend much time developing that. And then Lando shows up eventually, and I'm like, oh, this is where the, kind of not really. What the movie's really trying to tell you is the heart of the movie lies within Han and Amelia Clarke's character, whose chemistry I just could not buy. Yeah, I just did not buy their chemistry, man.
Honestly, I got the most heart from him and Woody Harrelson, because that relationship is like a mentor, mentee kind of thing. Him and Amelia Clarke are super intermittent. Together, I don't know how well they were able to lead this.
There's a lack of stakes. There's a lack of emotional impact. The movie's just aiming to be fun, but I also felt myself kind of not really invested. Like, you're sharing fun. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of cool spectacle in here.
To me, the best thing about this is just visiting the Star Wars world and seeing more parts of that. And on that level, it's amazing.
They use a lot of practical in this film, which I really appreciated. I'm glad that that's what they've been sticking with since they brought Star Wars back with Force Awakens, is sticking as much to practical as possible. Production design is as great as you'd expect it to be with a Star Wars film. Absolutely. And there's some bomb action sequences in here, too.
That are shot really well.
Yeah.
Like the second unit, man, hats off.
Like the train sequence is cool. The Kessel Run, while there's some people who couldn't really tell what was going on, and there were times where I was like, I'm not really sure, but I also felt the intensity of it, so I thought they pulled off the Kessel Run pretty well too.
And for what that has to live up to, I thought that was a pretty cool sequence.
It was well stylized, well choreographed. Other than the action sequences, I felt like a lot of this film wasn't really shot with a specific style or nuance.
The only occasional flavor I would ever catch was Western. Sometimes they would have these little Western flourishes, and I would be like, yeah, this movie seems like it maybe wants to be kind of inspired by a Western the way like Rogue One was inspired by a heist movie.
Yeah.
But it's only ever halfway. Yeah, you're just left with this kind of template shooting style.
Yeah, it's felt very simplified. It's in a weird way. It doesn't have that effect of watching Justice League where you're like, Zack Snyder shot this. Matter of fact, it feels like Ron Howard probably reshot the majority of the film.
It doesn't feel like it has their hands on it.
No, it doesn't. It not one bit. If you know the behind the scenes story at all, even just the tidbits, you can't help but be aware there's probably a more special movie within all of this, you know?
Yeah, and it's a bummer because you know that just the way these movies work, I can't imagine they want to rock the boat that much, but what this movie could use a whole lot more of is its own personality, and the guys who could have given it that are those two dudes. Because Ron Howard's a good filmmaker, and this is like a well-made, well-assembled movie, but it doesn't have the soul or the quirkiness that two dudes like that could have brought.
Yeah, it just really felt like there was a level this movie just was not hitting in terms of personality and style and soul and heart. It's just fine.
It's fine.
What were we all saying before we watched this movie? It's probably going to be a disposable, entertaining Star Wars film. That's exactly what it is. So if that's what your expectations are, it's going to meet exactly that.
Yeah, it's filler for Star Wars.
I don't want to walk out of this saying it's unnecessary. Just like, give me something that makes this special. Like, I thought Rogue One even gave that. Like, no, it's not necessary. There was stuff about it that made it special.
And they made choices with characters that made it more impactful.
And this movie doesn't do any of that. I think the most annoying aspect of this film is the prequel syndrome parts.
Oh, yeah.
I was not expecting it to be so on the nose with its references and it got his gun. What Chewbacca's name?
You know that thing that he's got? This is how it happened. And this is the most, like, on the nose I've seen. I thought we had learned from, like, all those horror remakes to be like, oh, that's where he got the mask this, like, trivial way. This movie takes it back to, like, oh, man, you really want us to be aware.
Yeah.
And we're not having trouble with that.
There are things they even repeat. Oh, man, yeah. Like, we can't spoil. I don't want to spoil it. I just want you to experience it.
There are moments they give to things that I didn't even realize needed explaining.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, cool, you made a moment of how this happened. I just thought that was the way it was.
It's passable, disposable Star Wars entertainment. It's not terrible. It's not bad. Nothing special.
I give it a sure.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. We might not be able to see Solo for a while. Let us know what you think about it when you watch it. What character do you think deserves a spin-off movie? Please say R2-D2.
That could be cool. Imagine, no dialogue.
Yeah.
Just beeps and subtitles.
Directed by Josh Trank.
Directed by Josh Trank. And then halfway through, it's going to become a completely different movie.
Yeah. I'm more compelled to do a spoiler review about this than The Last Jedi. I don't know why.
Well, because this will just be fun.
This is more of a fun movie to, like, pick apart. You guys can subscribe to the Reject Nation. Click that notification bell to get notified every time one of our vids is up. You can check us out on Patreon. Full-length TV show reactions, weekly Q&As. Would love to have you become a patron eject today.